right? You have a lot of turnover, possibly. Kelsey may be finished.
Where I'm looking up average life expectancy. I'm dreaming at this point. Like, I can't. I'm done with the season.
What's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes? And it's weird to be talking about a guy like, what's the next evolution of Pat Mahomes, and he's not 30. You could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us, and we appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
What's going on, my guy? How are you?
Man, I am doing pretty good. Ken, where can the folks find you on the artist formerly known as Twitter?
Find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _.
All right. And I said S as in sangria. Kennedy Miller, I should have said S as in season, because the NFL season is upon us. Got a long spring, summer, but NFL football is finally back. Finally back. I'm excited. You're excited. We're going to break this whole thing down. And Ken, I said S as in season. Do you think this is going to be the season where the Baltimore Ravens finally get over the hump and make it to the Super Bowl and possibly win it?
I think they have I think they will do it. Obviously, the Chiefs will still be contenders, right? But there's been some drop off, obviously, since their late 2019, 2020, those teams. These Chiefs teams seem a lot more Pat Mahomes reliant. Obviously, you have contenders. Buffalo is basically in the same boat as Baltimore right now in trying to get over that hump, right? They've got an MVP quarterback as well, and they feel like they have a really good chance to make a run. The one thing about Baltimore, and I think they probably have the top roster in the league, like just top to bottom on paper, I think they have the best roster in the league. That division is going to be a grind. Like, Buffalo, I think, will pretty easily win their division. And so I think they'll have a good enough chance to secure home field advantage, right? Like, I think Miami is just all over the place right now. New England's young. I think they're going to surprise some people, but New England is young, and then the Jets are starting Justin Fields, right, at quarterback. So
even if they weren't, they're the Jets.
Right, they're the Jets. And I'm rooting for Aaron Glenn. I'm rooting for Aaron Glenn to do well, but it's a tough job. So, I mean, Buffalo can win? They could probably win 12, 13 games, right? One thing we always know is that Mike Tomlin's going to have a 500 or better team, right? Pittsburgh is always going to be tough, right? I think Cincinnati will be better this year. Like, I think they're a playoff team, and then we'll talk about the Browns a little bit later. But I think it's just going to be a little bit tougher for Baltimore. And so if Buffalo can get that home field advantage all the way throughout, and then talking about the Chiefs, who basically have won their division every single year since Pat Mahomes has been there, I think their division has gotten a lot better, right? I think Denver brought in a lot of pieces. A lot of people are expecting Bo Nix to have a really good second year. Las Vegas might not be great, but Pete Carroll is a really good coach. He's going to have those guys ready to play.
Well, you're talking about the Raiders. For a second, I was like, who the heck? What team was in Vegas? Oh, the Raiders. It's still taking me a minute.
Man, it threw me off too. And then you got the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. Now, they did just have a bad loss on their O-line. Somebody, I can't remember his name. Yeah, Rashawn Slater. That's who it is. Is out for the year after signing that deal, so that sucks for them. But AFC West is not going to be a joke either. So I think it's really clearing for Buffalo to have the best chance instead of Baltimore.
My thing with Baltimore is this, right? If Baltimore is going to get over the hump and get to a Super Bowl and possibly win one, it's going to be because Lamar Jackson overcomes his playoff demons, right? Like, up to this point, he's had sort of a Peyton Manning-esque type of career.
Manning, for sure.
Right, where he's a great regular season player. Lamar Jackson's won 2 MVPs, and I think he should have absolutely won MVP last year. They just gave Josh Allen a participation trophy. How you win MVP in 2023, yet you throw like 15 more touchdown passes, run for more yards, and throw less interceptions, and still don't win MVP, even though Josh Allen was second team All-Pro and Lamar was first? Like, how that happens, I don't know. They lucky I don't have Ben Crump on the phone. All right. He busy with other things. Okay. He's busy with other stuff, right? But Lamar has had these great seasons, and the Ravens have had these great seasons. Yet when it comes to playoff time, it always seems to fall apart. Lamar's first year as a starter when he won the MVP, big trust, the whole thing. The divisional round against Tennessee got smashed, right? 2 years ago, they have home field against Kansas City. I think it was Mahomes' second road playoff game ever. It all falls apart, right? Last year, Lamar started off really slowly in that Buffalo game. Eventually, he got it going. Mark Andrews drops that pass. That's not on him, right? But it's this sort of thing, like, for me, it feels like with Lamar Jackson, in a very James Harden type of way, I think the moment, like, he starts overthinking and the moment gets really big for him, right? That's really, for me, I think that's a thing with Lamar. So if Lamar can kind of deal with those things and not let the pressure get to him, but a big part of me says, if you're a guy that lets the pressure get to you and the moment gets too big, that's not something you can unlearn, if that makes sense, right? Like, that's just who you are, right? Like, James Harden has never been able to get over that hump, right? Game 6 and 7, we can go chapter and verse on what that looks like for him, right? Is it the same sort of thing with Lamar Jackson where these moments get too big and it seems like, at least to me, like he's actually thinking instead of just being Lamar Jackson in that type of way, right? And it seems like he gets so just revved up where it's too much. He's thinking far too much, right? If that doesn't happen, they have the best roster in the AFC, right? Where's the weakness? They've got a guy at running back, Henry, who I can't believe is in like year 10 and has had like couple thousand carries. It still is running through people. They've got Zay Flowers on the outside. They've got two good tight ends in Andrews and Likely. In the defense, they the Ravens. They gonna have some dudes in the linebackers in the secondary. They got guys, right? I think your mention of Kansas City. Here's my thing with them. Ken, have you ever seen a team go 15-2 and be underwhelming?
Not until last year.
Right. Like that Chiefs team, like most times your team win 15 games and everybody is jumping for joy. Yet all last year we were sitting there like, these boys not that good, man. All year. We were sitting there like, they keep getting away. The mid has been selling, right? They were underwhelming 15-2. Their offensive line, the tackles were bad. The tackles were so bad, they had to move their left guard out to left tackle, which then kind of made the interior shaky. Rashee Rice was hurt last year. Pacheco was hurt last year. Travis Kelce looks old. He's in what year? 13 or 14 at this point?
Yeah, he's definitely fallen off.
Right. And they got to a Super Bowl with those guys. My thing with Kansas City seems to be they're at a place with Mahomes where they're looking kind of at it where I feel like teams were with LeBron James 8, 9, 10, 15 years ago, really from like 2007 to 2018 or 19. Teams operated with LeBron James. They were like, well, we have all these deficiencies. We have all these personnel issues. We have all these problems, but we have LeBron. And if we got LeBron, we can make this shake. I feel like that's what the Chiefs are doing with Mahomes. They're like, yes, our offensive tackles are bad. Yes, we've got some, a bunch of gadget guys out there at receiver. I think Rice and Xavier Worthy are more than gadget guys, but they're like number 2 options, really. You know what I mean? Like Worthy's really fast, but like who's going to be the guy who's going to go over the middle and catch those tough passes, right? They still got the track team out there, right? But all that being said, like the running game isn't great, but they have Mahomes. And if they have Mahomes, we're going to be able to figure it out, right? Because either the only 2 ways I feel like to beat the Chiefs are the Chiefs beating themselves, which I feel like they did in that conference championship game against Cincinnati, 3 or 4 years ago, in which it felt like they themselves just kind of self-destructed, right? Like they made errors and the Bengals were able to capitalize on those, right? That there's that type of way in the playoffs you can beat the Chiefs, or you're going to have to just flat out whip their ass. Like bell to bell,
yeah,
whip
you just
their
have to
ass.
be flat out better than them.
Right.
Like it can't come down to it. It can't come down to
it. And I think that's the thing. Like that's where like last year, Philadelphia, I was like, the only way the Chiefs have a chance in this game is if they somehow are able to keep this close. But I was like, other than that quarterback, the Chiefs are outmanned and outgunned. Like you're going to have to outman and outgun them, right? And what teams can outman or outgun them at this point, right? Like man for man, right? So I think the Chiefs will be around. And for me personally, if that's the worst the Chiefs are probably going to be, is 15-2. right? Rashee Rice is going to be back. Now, he's probably going to miss like, what, four games or more for the whole, speed racing incident, right? They still got Marquise Brown is going to play the full year, we hope. Xavier Worthy, right? Juju Smith-Schuster, he's just kind of been able to just kind of hang out there at this point, right? Their defense is good enough to where I feel like the whole plan is, let's just keep it close. If we keep this game close, kind of like in basketball in the playoffs, you hand your best player the ball, go get us a bucket, win the game for us, right? So Kansas City's going to be there. And right now, as much as I just said about the Ravens, they got Mahomes. So, and Lamar at this point, he's going to have to show and prove. You know what I mean?
He has to. I mean, 2-time MVP, I thought the Peyton Manning example is spot on because we're running out of things to say. That first, the first Titan, when they lost to the Titans, it was, kind of some questionable drops on his receivers, like Lamar needs weapons, da-da-da-da. We fast forward to now, like you said, this is arguably the best team in the league on paper. Like, they got dudes. They have a Super Bowl winning coach. They have a great culture. Everybody knows about the Ravens culture. And if you are that guy that is supposed to be in the tier with Mahomes, right, you got to get to a Super Bowl. You got to get to a Super Bowl. You're getting all these MVPs, right? You are an amazing player, right? Probably top 2 in the league. You gotta get out of there. You got to get your own. Because I think if he doesn't win it this year or at least get to the Super Bowl, he's going to start getting that label. He's going to start getting that label of not being able to perform when it matters.
And I think it's so hard, right? With like you're being in the division, being in the conference, even the division with the quarterbacks, right? Like we look at this point at the AFC the way we look at the NBA's Western Conference. Like, if you make it out the West, you probably gonna win the title, right? Unless they're just a monster coming out the East, like there was with Boston a couple years ago, right? Like that's what like Philadelphia was, just a monster, right? Like Philadelphia would have walked through everybody probably in the AFC. They were that loaded, right? But we've been using this metaphor. If Patrick Mahomes is Michael Jordan, right, then Josh Allen is Charles Barkley, right? And Lamar Jackson is would be, I don't want to say the power forward from the Utah Jazz. I don't want to put that on nobody. I don't want to call nobody that. That's insulting. Yeah. Don't want to put that on nobody, right? But if we're thinking about it and, let's say the Chiefs are the Warriors, right? The Ravens are what? James Harden's Houston Rockets, right? A team that competed but never got there, right? And I think it's crazy to think about, like, we're going to be talking about, like, how many dudes did Mahomes deny rings? In the same way we talk about, like, Jordan. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it's like Barkley didn't get no rings because of Jordan. Patrick Ewing wasn't able to get no rings because of Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Them boys out in Utah weren't able to get no rings because of Jordan. You know what I'm saying? But I personally think with the level of roster that Baltimore has, they would be able to theoretically either just flat out beat them. You like be flat out better than Kansas City, kind of like we talked about earlier. I think they have the roster to do it. You know what I mean?
I do too. Like I said, unless there is a substantial injury that occurs, they got all the pieces and they have no excuses. Like this is the year. It's enough of like trying to ease into the play or like figure out the playoffs and all this stuff. Man, I hope they get it done. I do think sometimes NFL playoffs get a little bit inflated, like either performances or like if they disappoint. And it's always like equated to the NBA, but I do think the NBA is a little different when you're judging people on the playoffs because
single
elimination, like you're not playing Detroit on a Wednesday night. Like there's a different game plan for the NBA. There's a different game plan for the NBA because you're game planning for one team, right? The NFL is already like, you don't get extra time. You're preparing the same as you do during the regular season. Like they don't hit different. They hit the same. They play hard in the regular season. They play hard in the playoffs. Like you can't like go 50% how some NBA players do in the regular season and change it up in the playoffs. So sometimes I feel like, because I was talking about this the other day, like we got talking about Eli Manning, and I don't think that Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer. Well, he beat Tom Brady. He beat Tom Brady twice. Well, that doesn't excuse the fact that he's a 500 quarterback.
Nick Foles beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, he did it. He played well in the playoffs, but like that doesn't override what his whole career has shown me.
Yeah, he got that's when like he got hot twice. Like, and the crazy part about Eli Manning, if people look at Eli Manning's playoff record, all of his playoff wins came in 2 postseasons. Those 2
Those 2
times
years.
they won Super Bowls, right? Past that, they didn't win a playoff game. Oh my God, that's so frustrating, right? But like that is why it's different. But either way it goes, Lamar Jackson gonna have to figure this out. He
does.
He got to
No
figure
excuses.
it out. Like this is, like you said, people are not going to want to hear it, right? Like earlier we were like, look, man, this feels a whole lot like Cam Newton in Carolina, where they got you just throwing four or five random guys. The running back room isn't like everything about this offense at one point was built solely around Lamar getting it done. That's not entirely. They got real guys you got a game plan for now, right? And so, Ken, that brings us to my next question. Who's the first coach you see getting fired this season?
I'm going to go with Mike McDaniel. I'm going to go with Mike McDaniel. Like, I have no clue what Miami is doing. Where do they feel like they are? Like, it's all over the place. I just watched the Jalen Ramsey podcast, and he kind of threw a shot at Mike McDaniel. Like, they were trading him to somewhere where people respect the coach. Obviously, some of it goes along with Tua hasn't always been healthy, but I think he's on the hot seat. I think if there's not any improvement this year, and we just talked about it, Buffalo's going to basically run that division. There's not any improvement. I think he's out the door. I think Mike McDaniel's the first one out. Another one I kind of thought about would be Brian Dable, but I think with how well Jackson Dart has looked, they're going to be willing to kind of extend that leash just a little bit. But if I had to start, before I saw Jackson Dart play in the preseason, I would have said Brian Dable. But now I'm going to say Mike McDaniel.
My thing with, and I'm not gonna lie, that the Miami Dolphins was very interesting to me because I think the Dolphins have been better in the last several years than they have been like in the decade or two previous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because before that, the Dolphins, I felt like were like a 5-11, 6-10, 4-12 type of operation pretty doggone consistently. What the team McDaniel has put together is very exciting, like with Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Mostert. I think they got homeboy from Marshall, Devon Achane, right? And like he got a track team out there. And the thing that is so interesting about that track team he didn't put together is with the Dolphins, you bad if the Dolphins run over you. You good if you run over the Dolphins. Right? Like it's that sort of situation where they're an average to above average team, but they're never going to be serious contenders. And so how cool is Miami with that? The biggest issue, like you said, is Tua has not been healthy. And it's so crazy to look at. Like we always talk about teams not having quality backup quarterback play, right? When Tua's not in there, that offense cannot function at all. Like it doesn't even look, it's so bad.
I got some numbers.
What's up?
Since 2022, whenever Tua starts, Miami averages 377 yards and 27 points per game, which would be the NFL's fourth best offense. And they win 61% of their games. But when he misses time, the Dolphins only have won 30% of their games and are last in points per game at 15 points per game. Now, you talk about a lack of a backup quarterback. Who's their backup quarterback?
Wait, I know this. I saw it the other day. It is Zach Wilson, and I think third string is like Quinn Ewers.
And Quinn Ewers.
I'm not going to lie to you. They better put Tua in bubble wrap. Bubble wrap, I tell you. Bubble wrap. Because if you got to send Zach Wilson out there.
Exactly.
Season's over. We saw what happened in New York when Aaron Rodgers ran out there with the flag on 9/11, even though he's a 9/11 truther, right? So excited, right? He blew his Achilles. You saw all them people in the crowd start crying. You saw them dudes on the sideline because they knew what it was. We got to put Zach Wilson in the game. They knew. So that's fair. I wasn't initially thinking about Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, but like you make a fair point. The team for me and the coach for me, that's going to be first out the door, Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski has 2 11-win seasons, right? But sandwiched between those is an 8-9, a 7-10, and last year was 3-14. Another bad season will get you canned. But here's the problem. The Browns have been so abject over the past, really, 40, 50 years. Do you know He's probably the second most, I think he's the second coach in the history of the Cleveland Browns to win more than 11 games twice.
Yeah, when you said 2 11-win seasons, I'm like, well, When is the last time they've had more than that, and with who?
Right. Paul Brown, the man who they named the stadium after.
Right.
The man who they named the team after. Right. So on one hand, he's probably one of the more successful coaches in the history of the organization. On the other hand, they got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and we'll talk about Shadeur Sanders a little bit later. You've seen that roster. Those boys are going, what Usher say, you're going nowhere fast. We've reached our climax. This is a wrap, okay? They are headed to last place. They are going to be absolute booty cheeks. 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 They're going to be cheeks, right? You can't have like 2 back-to-back 12 or 13 loss seasons and keep your job. Like, that's just not how that works, right? Especially, 2 years ago? They were an 11 win team, but I feel like they fell ass backwards into that because the artist formerly known as Deshaun Watson, he got hurt, and then in came Joe Flacco, right? But he gonna be throwing the ball to Jerry Jeudy, who I think is pretty good. Like, Jerry Jeudy's an NFL caliber receiver, right? Njoku's still out there at tight end. They've got a whole new set of running backs.
Didn't they get Judkins?
Yeah, Judkins. They got Judkins. He got some issues right now.
And they got our Texas boy, Isaiah Bond.
Look, between Watson, Bond, Judkins, and they putting together the longest yard. Okay, they putting together what, Mean Machine? Like, brother, wait. Oh, Kareem Hunt's not there no more. Kareem Hunt's gone.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt.
I'm like, brother, y'all have put together a motley crew. Like, hey, but that motley crew is going to be in last place. And for that reason, I think you don't get this many seasons. If 4 out of your 7 seasons are losing seasons with two seasons where you win under 5 games, yeah, you're getting canned. I think he's probably the first one to go, but I think not far behind him is Brian Dable. And Brian Dable is in that like Steve Nash type of situation where they probably should have fired you last year, but they're going to probably let you start the season off 0-3, 0-4. He the first,
yeah. If they do that, yeah, he's definitely getting fired.
But here's my thing with firings like that, though. And Nebraska did that with Scott Frost a couple years ago. If you fire a guy, right, you fire a guy 3 or 4 weeks into the season, you should have fired him last year. Like, you should have fired him at the end of last year. Like, what are we doing here? So for me, Kevin Stefanski is going to be the first one to go. For me. All right, Kid, you ready?
Are you thinking that he gets fired mid-season before we go to the next thing? Or are you saying you just think he's the biggest candidate to be fired once this season is over?
I think Stefanski's going to be the first one to get fired this year, like mid-season.
Okay, so a mid-season.
I think he's a mid-season firing. And hell, I ain't going to lie. If I was Kevin Stefanski, I'd probably try to be getting myself fired. Right? I don't know. You want to go to work and deal with this?
Right.
Like, you got Deshaun Watson just sucking up a whole bunch of salary cap space, right? You got Watson over there doing much of nothing right? You got to keep an eye on him.
Yep, he is rehabbing.
Right? You got Myles Garrett over there upset, right? You had the money whip him, right? Like, what is there to look forward to if you're I do know what it is to look forward to if you're the Cleveland Browns. You have two first-round picks next year, one of which you're likely going to use on a quarterback. That's what you have to look forward to. But Kevin Stefanski won't be the coach that gets to actually pick that quarterback. It won't be him. All right, kid, you ready to play a game of over-under?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, man. So let's start off. Over-under 12 wins for your Dallas Cowboys, Kennedy Miller. New coach, Brian Schottenheimer. You got George. As bad as you was talking about him when you hired him, now he got a nickname, Ken? Hold on. Wait, kid, I knew you'd do it. This is about that time you're Kennedy Miller, eternal optimist. See, this is what I like about you, Ken. This is what I like about you, right? Kennedy Miller you are a glass. Kennedy Miller would see this and say, that's not a glass half empty, right? You said, that's a glass half full, right? You ask Kennedy Miller you ask Kennedy Miller, like, what's up, Ken? You doing all right today? Man, it's raining outside. It's all kind of terrible. Ken like, man, it's the day the Lord's made. I'm above ground. Every day above ground is a good day. Ken be talking like them old black men that be sitting on the stoop, right? That's you, right? Like, eternally optimistic. So Kennedy Miller, eternal optimist. You've given Brian Schottenheimer a nickname after running him through the mud.
Jotty. I'm going under, to be quite honest with you. I think our division is going to be pretty good. I do think will at least split with every team in the division. Got to get the Micah Parsons situation handled. I think we will, but that, as they kept saying, there's been no talks whatsoever. But as we talked about on the podcast before, he's not missing training camp. So he's not taking that $50,000 fine. So I wouldn't imagine if he won't take the $50,000 fine, he's not going to take missing those game checks. So I think we'll get that situation. I'm hoping we'll get the situation handled. I think we're going to be under 12 wins, but I do think we can get to a 9. I think we can get to like a 10 win team and possibly be a wild card team. I think if Dak is healthy throughout the year, which is now a question, right? Which is now a question on his availability. But if he's healthy throughout the year, he's going to win you 7 or 8 games at the least. That's just what it's always been if he's healthy, right? You gave him another receiver in George Pickens, who's in a contract year. He's in a contract year now. He has something to prove even at, 24 years of age, I want to say that he is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Dak has engineered less offenses to being the number one offense. Like, giving him CD and George Pickens, the Cowboys could have a top 5 offense. Like, Dak could probably throw for like 4,500 yards because we've had the number one offense 2 out of the last 4 years. And giving him a true number 2, I think our defense still needs some help. We don't really have like an identity on our defense besides Micah Parsons. Like, we don't really have an identity. It's a lot of unproven guys, young guys. So I've yet to see. Our O-line is young. I think they show a lot of promise, but you kind of never know what you're going to get with a young O-line. Sometimes it can work out really well. Sometimes it can go really bad, really quick. Chaz Green. But Tyler Godden is hurt. Right? He's hurt right now. The jury's still out, but I do think we're going to be much better than, like, I've seen some people predicting us to be last in the division. I think we're going to be better than what a lot of people think. Like I said, I think we'll probably be in that 8 to 10 win range.
I'm going to go under as well. I think my prediction Cowboys season is 10-7. That's what I'm going with. And I think, to me, the biggest thing about Dallas, and I'll get to this whole Micah Parsons thing here in a second, Dallas is, in our lifetime, has never lacked for talent on the roster, right? There's always going to be some really good, like, high-end players at certain places. The hard part is, like, is there any depth there, right? So with what Dallas has, right, a quarterback that you just can't go out on the street and find someone that's better than, right? Dak Prescott is a pretty good NFL quarterback, right? Does he still have his limitations? Absolutely, right? Like, you can't
Tier 2.
Like, you can't just drop Dak in somewhere and expect Dak to be great. Like, he's not on that level of, like, a Mahomes, a Lamar, a Josh Allen, right? He needs guys around him, right? You got CD Lamb.
He's a tier quarterback.
Right. He's got CD Lamb, who I love watching that dude play. Love watching CD Lamb play, right? Pickens is a good number 2. Now, again, I would say you need to ask the question. The Steelers have the opportunity to put a tandem together of DK Metcalf and George Pickens. And Mike Tomlin was like, nah, we need to give that guy away. Why would you want to give that guy away? Why? Right? Like, that guy would definitively be your number 2 receiver. And your team would be better off likely with George Pickens on the field. But why was he like, nah, I'm good. Juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? Like, that's something, like, to consider, right? I think O-line wise, what Dallas is doing is really good, right? Like, Dallas has been at its best in the 90s and even in those 2010s when Dallas had a great offensive line. And they're trying to rebuild that with Tyler, right? That's what they're trying to do. Like what I did there, Ken?
Tyler.
Like that. So, hey, that's what I'm going to call them boys. That's what I'm at to call them, Tyler, right? That's what they're trying to build. But can you actually run the football, right? Like, they've got Javonte Williams, I think Miles Sanders. They drafted Jaden Blue, who I think Blue is probably your guy. Like, Blue is a change of pace, Tony Pollard, Michael Turner type of running back, right? Like, Blue does not have a lot of tread on the tire, right? Coming from Texas. Like, Blue's got a lot left there. But he's not a 20, 25 carry guy. He's probably 10, 12, 3-4 catches out of the backfield, do some different things, right? But my biggest thing with Dallas is, can they actually run the football? And can they actually stop the run, right? Because last year, Dallas defensively was horrific. And they were bad even when Micah Parsons was on the field, right? Like, there were some structural issues that they have there defensively. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, Overshown's gonna miss a good portion of the year with that knee injury, right?
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to say if he was out for the season or not, but I know that it was an injury that was going to cause him to miss some time.
Right. Overshown's gonna be out at back, and I think that's another dude that's gonna be a superstar. Like Overshown is really good, really, really, really good,
Yeah.
right? But I think Dallas is like they start off the first 10, 11 weeks of the season is very manageable, very manageable. Like I can see Dallas getting out to like a 8-1 start, legitimately, if you go look at that schedule. But that back end from like week 11 on is rough. They've got Vegas, the Raiders. It still feels weird saying Vegas. They got the Raiders. They got Philadelphia, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, right? Like that's a 5-game stretch. And then they've got the Chargers in Washington, right? That Minnesota, Chargers, and Washington stretch of games. That's 3 games in 11 days. Last year when the Texans played that 3 games in 11 days, we were like, oh, this is going to be rough. And sure enough, it was, right? Like if the Cowboys are going to make the playoffs, they're going to have to stack up some wins against Carolina, right? A win against the Giants.
They're going to have to like that you're supposed to beat.
Right. Like they have to make hay early because the back end of that schedule is unforgiving, right? Like to just make sure you kind of stay afloat in the division. Opening night, Thursday night against the Eagles. That's probably a game you want. You really want, right? But I think Dallas is going to be a competitive team, right? I don't think they'll be a great team. There are too many deficiencies that Dallas has defensively. And then I still have questions on if they can run the football effectively. So I think I'm going to go under on Dallas. Let's go with over under 5 starts for the most famous 4-string quarterback we've ever seen, Shadeur Sanders. Over under 5 starts for Shadeur Sanders this year.
You know, 5. I'm gonna just say over.
Okay.
I'm gonna just say over. I think if it gets too hot in the kitchen, right? They're losing a lot of games. The fan base is calling for Shadeur. You know what I mean? I think at some point the owner's gonna come down and say we got to get some ratings. Go ahead, put Shadeur in. And I do think while he may not be a franchise quarterback, like we named off some people on their team that are quality players. I think he can cause enough to say, I'm going to tune in and watch this. And if he wins one of his first 2 games, I mean, he's going to keep going. I'm going to say over. I'm going to say over. I just think it's too much noise for them to not play him at all this season.
It's too much noise and not enough like in front of him preventing him to play, right? Like Joe Flacco got to the NFL while George Bush was still the president of the United States of America.
And is he going to even stay up all year?
Right. Like Joe Flacco old. You know what I'm saying? Like Joe Flacco got to the NFL like him and Kevin Durant are like around the same age or like somewhere, they'd have been in high school at the same time, right? Kenny Pickett cannot play dead. Dead, right? But my thing with Shadeur Sanders is going to be this, right? The Browns are going to be horrifically bad. Do we want him going out there behind a whole bunch of human turnstiles on the offensive line? Not much back there at running back. Like, is this the best situation you want to put a young quarterback in? And I'm asking that question sincerely because, like, people in the conversations around Shadeur Sanders are not completely about Shadeur Sanders. They're about a whole lot of other things, most of which do not fully have to do with him. There's a whole lot of people arguing about Shadeur Sanders and talking about Shadeur Sanders, and it's more about them and their own, people bring their grievances to an issue, even if this issue isn't about their grievances, right? So there's a whole lot on like either side of this. And we saw that with that preseason game. I hate watch that preseason game. Ken, you know me. You know I don't watch preseason football because I'm like, we'll find something out week 1 for real. But they said Shadeur was going to start. I'm like, someone's going to ask me about this, so I'm going to watch this, right? And I said, either this is going to go really well and people are going to be like, see, you should have been the first quarterback taken there's a big broad conspiracy about a white man, right? Or he's not going to look good. And it's people going like, see, I told you, right? He played okay. It's preseason, right? Like, let's not do way too much here, right? Like, it's preseason. It's all right. Like, if he actually gets a chance in the regular season, we'll see really what's what. And I'm saying we'll see really what's what because, and I think this would be really important for Shadeur Sanders. Like, if Shadeur Sanders is as good as people think he is, like, I think he's an NFL quarterback, right? I think he has potential to be like a starting level NFL quarterback. Not great, not transcendent, just, there, right? Serviceable. right? There's room to be serviceable, right?
Mhm.
If he ends up being that, at this point, he'd have really got it out the mud. This one, because up until now, his father, I'm just, speaking facts, his father has cleared the way for him to be the quarterback at every step. That's not there anymore, right? If he is going to get this one, he's going to have to really earn this one. Now, again, him earning this one, it ain't going to take much because these dudes are not good, right? Like, he's going to have the opportunity to prove it. And can we just not collectively lose our damn minds? I mean, like, people in general, right? Everybody. Because this, like, it feels like a little bit of that, like that Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese stuff kind of coming into here. You know what I'm saying, Ken? Like,
yeah, I mean, but they will lose their mind.
And see, that's the thing. I don't have the patience for it, Ken. I simply do not have the patience for all that. You know what I'm saying? And someone's saying this is going to be kind of like Tebow mania. And I'm like this. I see the analog there. I can see that. But, like, we ain't going to do Shadeur Sanders like that. Tim Tebow, like, you asked Tim Tebow to throw an out route. He threw that thing in the second row and hit somebody. He hit somebody selling beer, right? Like, Shadeur Sanders is a lot better than that guy. Come on now, right? But I'm going to go under. I'm going to say Shadeur Sanders gets 3 starts. People in front of him get hurt or are not good. I think probably Kenny Pickett's probably going to get cut, right? So they'll go in with Flacco, Gabriel.
He never had a job. We've seen Kenny Pickett.
Right. For me, I think there's none of those guys who are going to start games this year for the Cleveland Browns are going to be, like, probably the starting quarterback next year. None of them. Not one. I don't think one of them will. Because I think they're going to try to draft one this year. What, Nussmeier, we're not sure. People saying Archer's going to stay 2 years and play 2 years. But, like, this is a deeper group of quarterbacks this year. Right? All right. The next one. Over under 10 wins for the San Francisco 49ers.
I'm going to say under. I know a lot of people were thinking over because they have a really cake schedule. They dealt with some injuries last year. But again, I think that division is going to be better than people think. I think the Rams are always going to be solid, well-coached team. There are questions about Matt Stafford. There are questions about his back. If he can't go, then they are done. But I'm assuming that he will still be able to play because we talk about backup quarterbacks. Stetson Bennett, no. Jimmy Garoppolo, absolutely not. I think the Seahawks will be okay. I think they'll just be so-and-so, and then, I take that back. Maybe I do need to have the 49ers at over 10 wins. I have a deep disdain for the 49ers after what they've done to me in the 2020s.
You sound like they've done it to you personally.
At one point, it felt like it. Like, I had nightmares, buddy.
Like, hey, man, what'd I do to you?
Dude.
I'm going to say this about the Seahawks. My biggest issue with the Seahawks is going to be this. You had Sam Darnold as your quarterback. And last year, people were talking about Sam Darnold. And I'm like, that's still Sam Darnold. Like, this is much more about Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and, like, everything around him than it is actually about Sam Darnold. Because when the time,
bro.
Right, once the playoffs came, you know who Sam Darnold was? Sam Darnold. That's who he was. The clock struck midnight on his ass, right? And he went back to being Sam damn Darnold, all right? Which is why the Seahawks gonna go out there and trot Sam Darnold out there, and I'm like, good luck, right? With the Niners, my thing with the Niners is going to be this, right? I'm going to go under. Over the past, during the Shanahan era, so let's say the last, 8-9 years, we've known these teams to be big, versatile, and physical, right? Like, you going to play the 49ers, you're going to feel it, right? A lot of those guys that we think about in this last several years, they're gone. Dre Greenlaw is gone. Howard Funga is gone. Deebo Samuel is gone, right? Trent Williams is in, year 15 or 16?
At some point, it's got to fall off the cliff.
Right. At some point, the car is going to end up on the side of the roads with smoke coming out from near the engine, right? And you think about the fact that a lot of those teams, given the issues in the ceiling issues with the quarterbacks of the 49ers the last several years, Kyle Shanahan effectively, with the rest of the roster that he built, he quarterback proofed those teams, right? He's like, all right, we're going to have versatile skill players. We can line our best running back up at receiver, line our best receiver up at running back. We can split the fullback out and have him run a slant. We can line the tight end up at receiver. We can do all kinds of crazy stuff with scheme and formations and all, and all of that. I can quarterback proof the offense, right? Christian McCaffrey is 29, and I think he's cooked, right? We've always talked about running backs after age 27, it goes downhill, right? Deebo Samuel is gone, right? Brandon Ayuk is hurt. and I think he's going to miss a substantial portion of the early going of the season, right? Where is the sort of protection and quarterback proofing, right? Like George Kittle is still there, right? But that entire infrastructure that made the quarterback not nearly as important isn't there anymore. Kyle is still a great like offensive mind, a great schemer, a great game planner, right? But those sorts of mismatches, right, aren't there, right? So and without those mismatches there, Brock Purdy gonna be the one that have to make some shake.
Correct.
Right. I think Brock Purdy is serviceable, right? Like, but I don't think you can just drop Brock Purdy into a situation like this and expect this thing to work. Does that make sense?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I really do have the under on them. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think the Rams will win a division, assuming that Matthew Stafford will be healthy. And I think that window that we saw of San Francisco for 4 years, 4 to 5, the window's closed. Like you named, there's a lot of good players that were on that team that are now gone or kind of over the hump. Are we really going to assume that Christian McCaffrey is going to be healthy for a full season? Like, Brock Purdy doesn't have all those weapons, right, at what felt like the peak of their powers 2 or 3 years ago, like he had. Like, that team is just not one of the most talented rosters in the NFL anymore. And so I don't think they're going to get to 10 wins. You look at the schedule, they could have a good run. Like, they could reel off some wins because that schedule really is cake.
Like a 4th place schedule, ain't it?
It is a 4th place schedule. Like, I mean, you're looking at it. To start the season, Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, Jags, Rams, Bucks, Falcons, Texans, Giants, Rams, Cardinals, Panthers. None of those teams is like, that's a guaranteed loss. You're like, oh, they could beat them.
And say that I think the Texans is a loss.
I mean, I think so.
But it's not like a guarantee is what you're saying.
Not a guarantee.
Fair enough. Fair. That's fair. Yeah, they're in such a weird place. They're in such a weird place, right? And Kyle Shanahan, it's crazy. Like, because if you go look at his records, either those teams are like really good, make deep runs, real Super Bowl contenders, or they're not making the playoffs. And they're probably not making the playoffs because I talked about earlier, how those teams are big, they're nasty, they're physical, right? Being big and physical, that wears you down too. Because you running into people too, right? And we talk about that with like the Detroit Lions last year, right? The Detroit Lions mash people. The problem is when you mash people, at some point you spend the same amount of time in the cold tub too, right? Like the Lions just like ran out of bodies, it felt like, right? So, and speaking of like physicality and can you like hold up, over under 75 snaps a game for Travis Hunter this year with the Jags.
75 snaps. And what he averaged, I want to say
120.
Yeah, it was like 120 in college for him.
Or something,
which
like,
is insane.
I feel like the number should probably be higher, but there are less snaps in an NFL football game. So that's why I think I like adjusted the number.
Right. So he averaged over 100 snaps per game. In 2024 season, he played 1,500 total snaps, not even including special teams, which averaged out to over 117 snaps per game.
That, like, for people to like think through it, if you play 60 snaps per game for 10, 11, 12 games, that's what, 720 snaps? You said he played more than 1,100, right? Like, he's played like on like the amount of miles on his body is like, that's 2 years worth of miles on your legs. You said under?
It's not sustainable.
It's not.
To average 75. Like, I think there might be some games where maybe he gets to it or might go over, but for a 17-game season, no.
Here's my thing with the Jags, right? The Jags, the only way you make a move that they did, like they gave up, they traded, the 5th pick, a 2nd-round pick, a 4th rounder in this year's draft, and their 1st rounder next year, which is going to be a high pick because they the Jags, right? You only do that if you think this guy's, number one, not only a generational talent, but 2, the value you can get from his two-way ability, right? Like, if you think you're getting 2 players for the price of 1, right? That's the only way you give up this much, right? Think about it, Ken. We talked about it 19 when the Clippers gave up all those picks in SGA to get Paul George, and Doc Rivers had to try to convince the owner into it. He's like, but listen, this isn't just for Paul George. If we do this, this is for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, right? This isn't what we're getting 2 guys for this price, right? And that's how they were able to convince Baltimore to do it. It's the same sort of idea. You only give up this much if you think you have 2 players for the price of 1, right? And frankly, if you think about it defensively, they need Travis Hunter, right? Like the Jags were bottom 7 in every major defensive statistic. Points allowed, yards per play, first downs allowed, passing touchdowns, right? Like they stunk defensively, right? I think walking out on the field right now, I think that dude is one hell of it. I think he's a better defensive back than he is a receiver. I think he's a good, would be like a good NFL receiver. Like, let's say he wasn't this two-way, like Shohei Ohtani-esque type guy. Let's just say he was just playing receiver. I think he's like, he'd be a first-round receiver. I think he'd be a very good NFL receiver, right? But I think that dude is a generational talent at defensive back.
He's got great instincts.
I think like this sort of like Champ Bailey, Darrelle Revis, Darrell Green.
He's got good size. He's got great instincts.
And like ball skills.
Ball well. Yeah.
That is much rarer to find in a defensive back, right? And so I don't think it's sustainable. I didn't think it was sustainable for him to be doing at Colorado. I didn't, right? But in addition to like the physical, what they're asking from him physically, mentally, right? Like you got to go through both sets of meetings. Like these schemes are super duper crazy intricate, what they're asking you to do. Now, again, if you've got the ability to do it, not only physically, but mentally, and, keep all that like together, more power to you, right? But I don't know if this is physically sustainable for him to do. Like, I don't know if I'm just not sure of it. But like I said, if you're the Jags, you gave up what you gave up. Damn it, we gonna make you shake because we gave up this much, right? So we're both gonna go under on it. And last thing before we get out of here, Kennedy Miller, what is a team that you think will not meet expectations this year?
The Commanders. Don't believe in them. Alex, the Commanders last year went 12-5. Do you know the 12 quarterbacks they played against?
Okay. Daniel Jones.
Caleb Williams.
Wait, can I do this while looking up who they played?
Well, I got it for you right here.
Okay.
Daniel Jones twice.
All right.
Andy Dalton. Caleb Williams. Cooper Rush, and they lost that game.
Oh, they did. Wait, was that like Christmas Day or something? Like end of the season?
I want to say, yeah, it was towards the end of the season.
Will Levis, like Jalen Hurts, Kenny Pickett, because Jalen Hurts had a concussion one of them games.
Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, Trey Lance, Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow.
Hey man, that ain't exactly Joe Montana in John Elway.
I don't believe in it. And here's the thing. I think Jaden Daniels is really good. I think he is really good. Like, I think he's better than Dak Prescott. I've been having this whole debate, and this is the show for another day, but I have a debate about Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts. I think Jaden Daniels is better than both of them.
Right now?
Already. Like,
I
would take him on.
Like physically, like just like, you mean like physical talent or like ceiling or just like all of it right now?
I think he is much more elusive than I thought he would be. He's got great pocket presence. I didn't think I thought he would be a starting NFL quarterback. I didn't think he was going to be this good. But I do think teams have a little bit more film now. Obviously, they're going to be playing a better schedule. They benefited from playing a last place schedule. And so I just think it's going to be a drop off. Like, I don't think that they are up there with Detroit, and I think Tampa Bay might be pretty good this year too. But I don't think that they are one of the, and I don't think they're up there with Detroit and Philly as like the NFC elites, right? Like, I think they're another tier below, and I think it's just going to be a drop off. Like, people that are assuming that they're going to win 11, 12 games, I don't think that's the case.
They won last year, like number one score. They won a ton of one-score games. If we like count them up.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They won 7 one-score games and lost 1, 2, 3, 4 others, right? So they were in basically just about every single game, right? So if you're one of those teams, we kind of talked about it like with like the Minnesota Vikings. Like I think 3 years ago, the Vikings were like 8-0, 9-1. Yet like their point differential was like plus 6, 7, something like that. It's like, y'all not really that good, right? Like a play here, a play there, right? The same thing with Philadelphia. I think in 2023, where the Eagles started off like 9-0, 10-0. But the point differential was a similar type of situation. It was like, actually, this is a lot more tenuous than the record would indicate, right? I think the thing with Washington will be this. How we talked about it with the Texans last year. It was all fun and games the first year. This is fun. This is new rookie quarterback,
That's a good
new
point.
coach, right? Like everything, like there are no, at best, people probably thought we win 5-6 games, we build for the next couple years, right? But once you go to the NFC Championship game, like people have this like thought that there's nowhere to go but up. And that's not inherently true. And Washington fans should really know this. Robert Griffin, the peak of this Robert Griffin thing was his rookie year. Now, again, the Shannon ran that man's leg into a nub, right? Like, I'm not saying it'll be Robert Griffin, but I also don't think he also may not be Patrick Mahomes. At some point, like with CJ Stroud last year, there's going to be this sort of regression to the mean a little bit.
Correct.
People film on you.
Correct.
And with Cliff Kingsbury, especially as coordinator, once people like get a bead on Cliff struggles to adjust. Like that has been the big knock on Cliff Kingsbury, right? So for me, and I like this team. I like what they've done. I like how they built their roster. I like how they go about their business, right? I think the Detroit Lions are going to take a little bit of a step back this year. I still think the Lions are going to win.
You're saying Detroit will and not Washington?
Yeah, I think Detroit.
I agree with that too.
I think for me, Detroit they had this massive like talent exodus in terms of like their coaching staff, right? You lose Ben and you lose Aaron Glenn, right? And for me, of course, you've built your roster extremely well, right? But if you're a guy like Dan Campbell, like certain head coaches, we think of them in different ways. Like some head coaches, if you think of a guy like Ben Johnson, at least this archetype, Ben Johnson, we think is going to be like scheme guy, right? Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan are scheme guys, right? Dan Campbell isn't scheme guy. Dan Campbell is much more in this Dabo Swinney sort of archetype where he's culture guy, right? But in order for culture guy to work, he's got to hire some scheme guys that can make this thing shake with the talented players that they have, right? So you have to be really good with your hires, right? If you make a bad hire, this could, mess this thing up. Look at what happened with Nick Sirianni 2 years ago when Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon went and got coordinator jobs. Head coaching jobs, excuse me. Right? Sean Desai and I think Brian Johnson, those hires didn't work. They both got fired. Look what happened last year when Vic Fangio, right? It worked, right? I think Detroit takes a bit of a step back this year. I still think Detroit will be a really good football team. I still think Detroit, given that I feel like the NFC is really Philadelphia, because Philadelphia still probably has one of the 3 or 4 best rosters in the league, right?
Correct.
Philadelphia, Detroit, and then it's kind of like everybody else kind of trying to get in where they fit in. So I don't think Detroit is going to be like, because going into the playoffs, I feel like Detroit was like the head-on favorite to go to the Super Bowl. I feel like Detroit is going to be a good football team, but I don't think they'll be nearly as dominant as they were last year. And like I said, we rooting for the homie Dan Campbell, hiring all those Negroes, right? We rooting for him. Like he, are all around the country where diversity, equity, and inclusion is dying. Not in Detroit. Not in Detroit. Dan Campbell said, "Hey man, I'm talking like, hey, but he better hold on for the president go down there and like we gonna shut all this here down." All right, but I think Detroit takes a bit of a step back. But ultimately, Ken, let's make a Super Bowl pick before we get out of here.
Wow.
Who you got in the Super Bowl?
The Cowboys. I'm sorry.
Ken, you didn't believe that when you said it.
I don't even know why I said that.
Hey, yo, we're clipping this. We're clipping that one, okay? That's getting clipped.
That would be a great day. Anyways, I'm going to go with, because I don't want to say, like, I feel like the Lions are the pick. Like, if we're doing the favorites, right, then it's probably the Ravens and the Lions, right? Or the Bills and the Lions.
Or the Bills and the Eagles, something. But I know you can't really, like, you're not going to, like, speak life into the Philadelphia Eagles. I understand why you wouldn't. Now, for me, it's a bit of a shaky situation because I am engaged to be married to a Eagles fan, and she is very lovely. But like I said, Ken, one day, you know what I want to do, Ken? You know what I think we should do? I think because she has asked me to take her to an Eagles Cowboys game, and I was like, absolutely not. No, there's no way I'm going to be in the middle of that, right? But I thought in my head, what would an Eagles Cowboys game be like in Philadelphia?
Jesus Christ.
Now, Ken, I'm telling you, I was in Philadelphia very recently. She had a family reunion. I was out there in Philadelphia. Ken, the food is superb. The cheesesteaks are superb. Like, you would enjoy everything but the game. I'm going to tell you that. You'd enjoy everything but the game. And you probably you would probably, well, you can't get in there with a gun, right? You'd have to show up ready to fight.
I already know what type of time they on.
Hey, dog, you think, look, I always tell people this, right? You think you have seen wild fights in the parking lot of Gold Diggers in Houston. If you from Houston, if you know, you know. You think you've seen wild fights there. I don't want no problem with them folks in Philadelphia, outside of Lincoln Financial Field. They'll make that look like a kindergarten field day.
Yeah. I've seen the things they do when they win. I've seen the things they do when they lose. Not for me.
And I've seen them when they're happy, when they're thrilled.
Correct. I mean, whatever they was doing on the street when they won that first Super Bowl with Nick Foles, nah, man. That's not my type of crowd.
I'm going to go, as much as I wanted for Lamar Jackson, Lamar going to have to show me.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, you know this. Some of the listeners know this. The OG Game Plan Podcast listeners from, Gateway Apartments days, they know this. Mm-hmm. My granddaddy, Benny Goodwin Sr. from Missouri, Lamar Jackson going to have to show me. Okay, he going to have to show me. Until he does that, I got to go with Mahomes. As much as it pains me to do so, because I'm sick of them talking about Taylor Swift. I don't want to deal with none of that. But on field wise, it's hard to pick against, like, LeBron is your guy, right? It's hard. Like, for the last 15 years, it wasn't a crazy pick to say LeBron's team is going to win the final just because they have LeBron. It's the same thing with Mahomes. The same exact thing, right? I'm going to go Lions Chiefs. I think it'll be Lions Chiefs. And I think them boys in them now or later Gators, them real Detroit players, I think they hoist the Lombardi Trophy. I'm picking it.
It'd be a pretty good Super Bowl.
I am picking the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl.
Not mad at it.
And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
Yes, sir.
Where can the folks find you on the artist formerly known as Twitter?
Find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _ Again, that's _ Kennedy Miller _
All right. You guys can find me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, as in margaritas. Don't forget, follow the Game Plan Podcast on Instagram at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Again, follow our official Instagram at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Also, don't forget, folks that are watching us on our official Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell 10 friends to tell 10 more friends to tell 10 more friends about the Game Plan Podcast. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. For Kennedy Miller, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We will holler at you guys next time. Y'all take it easy.